Hey there, Luminary here. I don't have much in the way of news for you today. About the biggest thing that has happened, other than the Dead Island blunder, is I think that one of the Homeland Security guys got hired on at Sony. I really don't care. I prefer to keep my politics out of my gaming, so I won't be covering that. That's about ridiculous because political views have no business being in gaming unless it involves the game itself, and even still, it should be it shouldn't be related to real world issues. As far as Dead Island's concerned, there was a release saying that they released an incorrect version and it would be patched as soon as possible. Now, there are two things wrong with that statement, and one is that, well, an incorrect version was released which should have been easily fixed by just having the correct version, but they're talking about patching the incorrect version before or about the time that the international release is ready. That sounds like a load of shit to me. It really does. It's just like, well, we know the product's not finished. Let's just go ahead and put it out, and let's see what happens. And I've always questioned why. I've never seen any real in-game footage other than the intro to that game, and now I see why. It's because it's buggy as crap. The animations are subpar. The graphic styling is pretty damn nice, I'd have to say, but other than that, the only enjoyment I got out of watching anything having to deal with Dead Island had to have been on Blue Zephos's channel, or the Yogscast, as you may know. And though that these bugs have happened, they seem to have fun with it, and I think it comes from their experience with Minecraft and making their own adventures and making the best of everything. Because if you ever notice, whenever they start their videos, that it's starts out the same. They take on roles. Hey, welcome to my island, or whatever, and they just muck about. And of course, then the bugs hit, and they're like, "What are we doing? Oh my gosh, what is this?" And it completely ruins the immersion, especially for people who make their living being fraps jockeys and recording video games. And I was checking out Twitter, and even Wawakai, Aveen, I Am Cheeb, Jesse, they were tweeting about how bad the game is at the moment, and they can't play together, which is fine. I'm doing this recording just on the fly. I'm not doing any editing this time, just because I feel like I said, there's no news, there's no sense in me really editing anything. Now, I brought up this last point with Blue Zephos because it reminds me of a few things. I had bought Deus Ex Human Revolution, I believe last week or something like that, and when I fired it up, I was immediately entranced by the fact that Square Enix published it, and I was like, oh dear God, I'm not going to sleep, am I? And sure enough, the immersion of the game kept me up for about 2 rises of the sun, and the game was pretty epic. The gameplay was solid, the combat was great. The skills, they weren't as overwhelming as they were in the first Deus Ex, which I'm kind of glad for, because there was so much you could invest in the original Deus Ex. It wasn't even funny, but they've narrowed it down. My play style for that particular playthrough was I maxed out my hacking because I hate not having access to stuff, and I ended up doing the whole stealth thing throughout the entire game. So it was rather interesting. There's plenty of shooters out there where you can just fill an enemy full of bullets and just feel completely satisfied, but it takes real skill to get out there and not be noticed and take things down. And sure, it took me a little longer, but I believe it was worth it. It definitely it gave the game some depth, I should say. That brings me to a point where, they allowed a lot of freedom in a linear story. And I think that, after experiencing stuff like EverQuest and, playing games like Spore, and I'm a builder. I love building things, and I love making up my own stories to go along with it, or just being absolutely creative. And with Minecraft, it seems to be about the same. You get to create your own world, and you do your own thing. You make up your own stories. Again, Blue Zephos is a very, very good example of what they do with their Shadows of Israfel series. and all that all that stuff. So, what makes a game great? Well, what makes a game great is to hide the rails. Sure, there's a story, but if you hide the rails and you have all of these side stops, it creates this interweaving of this fantastic story. For example, like Deus Ex, you know, you had to go through the entire game and there was one solid linear story, but as you went along there was other things you could discover, like this is a spoiler here, so if you don't want to hear it I would stop the audio now. With Alex, you start learning things about him. The game never really develops on what Alex is, at least in my playthrough. If I'm wrong, feel free to post. Alex Mercer was something of a unique project, and you only get that translation through random obscure emails and, of course, the ramblings of some dementiated woman. And yeah, I probably made up that word, but whatever. Some woman with some fancy dementia who keeps thinking you're the dude who delivers her Meals on Wheels meals. So it was very interesting. It was very heart touching. They did a fantastic job with portraying the story. And I say it's a sandbox game because you can develop the game however you want. You can get as much or as little of the story as you want, alongside of the main story, which you're going to get all of anyway. And you're going to get it in different pieces depending on how you play. Like if you have your pheromones up where it needs to go, then, well, you can get information out of just about anybody. I think I blundered up and my pilot said, if you use that Casey mod on me, I'm going to kick you in the nuts or some stupid shit. So I was just like, okay, all right. The game, they've added a sense of don't screw up in this game. Now, there's other types of sandbox games like The Sims, and I really only ever bought The Sims just to build the houses and decorate and do cool stuff. And I would go in and I would play with the people, but it wasn't as entertaining as building the thing. So whenever I went and I played the people, I cheated. I don't care. Think of me what you will. I cheated. And I had all the money, and I just wanted to enjoy the game. And on both aspects, they did a great job. Spore was pretty much all sandbox. You had a point A to point B type goal throughout every phase, but all the content was created by the player and other players, so there was a limited amount of original creatures that were released. But they, as you played, you pretty much built the world you play in. Now, it only lasted so long. About the best part of the game was probably the cell stage. That was the most amazing. Everything after that was kind of meh and lackluster, like, the civilization stage. That was pretty horrible. You just had to suffer through it. Then when I finally got to galactic mode, I was just like, wow, this is pretty open-ended. I think I've stopped caring. Okay, yeah, I'm done. I'm starting to repeat quests. I could go out and collect stuff, but no, I'm good. So you have absolute sandbox games. You have sandbox games with a goal, like Deus Ex, and you have the way that Blue Zephos plays, which takes a complete sandbox game such as Minecraft and turns it into an experience unlike the experience set out by the game itself. And it doesn't get any more open than you're in a world full of blocks, go build stuff and stay safe. I think there's a lot to learn, especially after that horrible release from Dead Island. I mean, what were they thinking? Did they think that they could pull the eyes? It's, the wool over your eyes. It's like GameStop, taking out all of the OnLive, I believe that's what it's called, the OnLive coupons out of the Deus Ex boxes, which, I find is crap. They should have left it in there and offered their own, like, a pre-order special. Hey, you order this game. Yeah, it comes with an online certificate, but we've got a $50 gift certificate to go along with it. Sure, you don't want to support your competitors, but you might want to consider showing them up a little bit. So, I think I've talked for long enough. Again, I'm sorry I don't have any news for you, really, but those are my thoughts on what's going on. I'm Luminary, and I'll see you next time.